Hello and welcome. Marshall Gregory Thomas here, your host. Here at the 28th Amendment Tiny Concert Series, um, we're going to have some select readings. We're not going to play any live music today. Instead, I'd like to talk to you about the 28th Amendment. Here in the music bunker, where Ron is always on my shoulder, whispering in my ear. If I'm lucky, fingers crossed. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. The United States of America, the nation that Abraham Lincoln called the last best hope of the human race. We were born of struggle against impossible odds, utterly impossible odds. King George, the world's most powerful ruler, king of the British Empire, commanded the most powerful army in the world to sail over across the Atlantic, to come to the United States, the colonies, to hang the leaders of the American Revolution, and to bring the colonial population to its knees. The colonists' army, the Minutemen, citizen soldiers, composed farmers, merchants, armed with Kentucky long rifles, very accurate, made by the German metalsmiths in the Pennsylvania Hill Country. They defeated the world's most powerful army in 7 long years of war, using Fabian tactics. It remains the most successful anti-colonial war in human history. Later in the Civil War, Americans became the only example, again, in all of human history, of one race of men waging a civil war to free another race of men in the bloodiest war in our history. 100 years ago in World War I, we tipped the scales of destiny. We saved Europe from being crushed by German militarism. Then, 20 years later, in World War II, we destroyed fascism and saved Europe and the world from being subjugated, from being engulfed by an evil ideology, narrowly averting the disaster of a one-world fascist state government. The Cold War lasted from 1947 until 1992, when the evil empire of the Soviet Union, the USSR, collapsed. Communism killed 100 million people in 100 years. But through our perseverance, our courage, our strength in arms, and the strength and perseverance and courage of our allies, the ideology that threatened to enslave humanity, communism, landed upon the ash heap of history. We are a heroic people, a courageous people, kind, hardworking, generous. We bring the world an intellectually fantastic universe. This doesn't happen in every country. Every nation is not the source of an intellectually fantastic universe. This is very important. We have saved the world 3 times in the last 100 years. We bring the world hope. And now perhaps our most difficult struggle of all, the struggle to save ourselves. The people who do all the living, loving, and dying in this country are the working class and the middle class. Now, Too often we are obsessing about the wrong things. So let's set aside, let's forget about the poor for a minute. Let's forget about the rich for a minute and focus on what really matters to the ultimate destiny of the United States, of our form of government. The ultimate destiny of our republic follows that of the middle class. The middle 50%. Now, no one that really works for a living in this country has gotten a raise in the last 40 years. This is incredibly important. This is not historical at all. No one that really works for a living, the working class and the middle class, in this country has gotten a raise in the last 40 years. When was the last time you paid the same price for something that you paid 40 years ago? 40 years ago, a car cost $6,000, not $25,000 as it does today. And a house cost $50,000, not $300,000, the median house price today. Yet we pay people for their labor, or what they make with their labor. We pay people for their labor what we paid 40 years ago. This isn't just unfair. This is a war being waged on people who work and actually produce things. This is a very important concept. This is the bedrock of this republic, of democracy, of Western civilization, of Protestantism. The concept of honest, hard labor and shared sacrifice. This is the social compact that undergirds our nation and our civilization. The fact that it's understood that we're all in this together, that we are Team United States, that we are Team Western civilization, the United States and our allies, that we share the burdens and we share the rewards. But this concept, this social compact that undergirds the very stability and survival of Western civilization has been violated, has been broken, and must be repaired. This is slow genocide. This is class warfare. This is the frog in hot water. The heat slowly increased over time. The frog doesn't notice the gradual change over 40 years' time, and eventually the water boils and the frog is cooked. The people who actually work for a living are being cooked. Slowly, inexorably, are being destroyed. The people who work for a living, you who do all the living, loving, and dying in this country, you have pride. You have self-respect. You're conscientious. You're hardworking. You take responsibility for your situation. You were taught to take responsibility. This is being used against you as a weapon, such that you're being tricked into taking responsibility for your own demise, for your own destruction, as if this were your own fault, something you did, something you didn't do, something that is lacking in you, something that you even deserve. They're convincing you of all of the above, everything except the truth. This is a lie. And lies are being used to destroy you. The people who are doing this to you own the press. The people who are doing this to you own the politicians. You will never hear about this slow genocide, the most overused term of the generation, but I'm using it honestly here. Your annihilation. your economic, spiritual, and then finally your physical annihilation. It is a process. First, you're economically destroyed. You're denied the ability to work, to feed yourself and your families, to have a family, to afford a family. You're denied the ability to put clothes on your back, a roof over your head. You're economically destroyed. Then you are convinced that this is your fault, that it's something you did, something you didn't do, something you deserve. You are convinced that spiritually you are evil. You are destroyed spiritually. Spiritual death. And then finally, almost as an afterthought, comes your physical destruction itself. You will never hear about the slow genocide, nor will you ever get any relief from your elected representatives. Want proof? After they exported the American manufacturing base of 60,000 factories to southern China, they conveniently began selling heroin over the counter in pill form. The Nazi regime developed this specific drug. It figured how to make heroin in pill form timed released. And this patent was then patented again here in this country and sold by the billions of pills to people whose economic and spiritual pain had become undeniable physical agony. Legal heroin in pill form is now the leading cause of death in this country. So what is the answer? Well, we've had commissions, we've had hearings, blue ribbon commissions, congressional hearings, we have treatment regimes, we have billions of dollars set aside for treatment, we've injected expertise and money into law enforcement, we have lawsuits strategically going in certain states, many jurisdictions, we have counseling regimes and counselors are being trained how to help people. We have more hearings, more blue ribbon commissions. No. No. The answer is to make legal heroin illegal. So why has this not been done? It would take a couple of hours on Capitol Hill to do this, to undo what they did on Capitol Hill, which is to make heroin, over-the-counter heroin in pill form, legal, to make it unlegal. That is what set this entire process in motion. One piece of paper, a few hours, to undo the damage they have done. That is the answer. But that is not being done. It is not going to be done. And that, in and of itself, is proof that this is an elaborate charade. In Greek mythology, the evil dictator King Minos, of Crete, commissioned Daedalus, the genius inventor, to build an impenetrable maze. And then the young people were made human sacrifices. They were released into the maze to wander lost, hungry, and thirsty until they were finally killed and eaten by the Minotaur monster creation of the king. You and your children are in the 3,000-year-old maze. You are in the maze, and the Minotaur is the monster created by the state gone mad, the oligarchy gone insane, reduced to cannibalism. What kind of nation destroys its own people for profit? It is as old as human society itself. Ecclesiastes, there is nothing new under the sun. That is why The mythology, the story has reached us even after 3,000, 6,000 years old because it keeps repeating itself. The maze, the evil king, the Minotaur monster, the human sacrifice. The rich people and the trillion-dollar corporations, not exaggerating, Amazon, Apple, Google, they pay no taxes. They pay no taxes. Shared burden, shared sacrifices, forget about it. Okay? It's the people who labor, the people who work, the middle 50% are the people that pay the taxes. The people that haven't had a raise in 40 years, these are the people who are paying the taxes to support the runaway $2 trillion a year welfare state and the $1 trillion a year runaway military intelligence complex. You are paying the price for public expense and private profits. This is unsustainable. You pay the taxes. It's your children that are sent across the oceans, sent across the seas to 1,000 foreign bases to fight wars everywhere, all the time, forever. They are fighting in 20 different foreign countries right this minute at one time. There is no precedent for this in our history. Fighting, staffing 1,000 foreign bases, fighting in 20 different foreign countries, secretly, all at the same time, in forever wars, wars that will never end. When was the last time someone in authority, our political and military leaders, anyone, elucidated a clear, concise strategy for victory? Isn't that what every war demands? There is no strategy for victory in forever war. This is not just foolish. This is suicidal. This is insane. Those whom the gods would destroy, those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. Euripides, 3,000 years. Those whom the gods would destroy, they first make them go mad. This is insane. It's unsustainable. This cannot continue. Western civilization sends $1 trillion a year to China and $1 trillion a year to the Middle East. We are funding both sides of these conflicts, this forever war, and that is why we can never win, by definition, and why it will never end. The $1 trillion a year trade deficit will make us poor. Nations that sell more than they buy grow rich, and nations that buy more than they sell grow poor. It's common sense. $1 trillion a year trade deficit, 800 billion, fluctuates, will make us a poor nation, not a rich one. No matter what the talking heads on cable news are telling you, common sense tells you that they are lying to you. And if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? The $22 trillion national debt increases by about $1 trillion a year. In the 8 years of Obama, $10 trillion was added to the debt, and nobody said anything. We were bamboozled. We were lied to by omission. The United States has been in this strait only once before, after World War II, when we had essentially become the arsenal for democracy and loaned all this money and material and borrowed essentially 100% of our gross domestic product, a little bit more actually. We spent that money for a good cause, for saving the world from an evil empire, by fighting a two-front global worldwide war. against fascism, against Nazism, against militarism that threatened to engulf us and our allies. Well, now we're at over 100% of GDP in debt again, only for the second time in our entire history. Yet, what was it all for? And who got the money? The $22 trillion national debt increases by $1 trillion a year, and it alone will destroy us economically forever in 10 or 20 years. By definition, if we don't take care of it, we will become a second-class nation. We will become poor permanently. You won't hear about this imminent peril, this creeping catastrophe on cable news either. They don't want you to think about things like that. The people who run this roadshow call all the shots. They have decided to squeeze the United States of America, this nation, this republic, to squeeze Western civilization itself like a lemon, and then squeeze it dry, and then throw it away. They are throwing you away. They are throwing away your children's lives. They are throwing away the last best hope of the human race. I come not to praise Caesar. I come to bury him, for they are all honorable men. Either we flip the script and bury them, or they are going to bury us. Electing a Bernie Sanders or electing a Donald Trump is not going to change the system that is killing us slowly and inexorably. The political, economic, military status quo is locked in. None of this is going to change. It's for the last 35 years, none of this has changed. It's getting progressively worse. We've had the same problems, intractable problems, getting worse for 30 years. And our political system has not given us any relief, quite the contrary. The 28th Amendment will remove the money that controls the political class and locks in the status quo, locks in the economic, political, military order that is failing us so badly. Let it begin here. The next great American Revolution, the new century, a century of promise. We deserve the American dream, a new American dream, a rebirth of the American dream. We deserve it. Think of yourself and your family and your loved ones. You are a good person, deserving of care, consideration, kindness. Do you deserve this fate? Answer the question yourself. Do your children deserve this terrible fate of economic, spiritual, and then physical death, and the death of the last best hope of the human race? Let us now enter the maze and slay the Minotaur monster creation. Let us now go where mortals fear to tread. I am carrying the magic whistle in this story, and the magic whistle is speaking the truth. That will disarm and immobilize the Minotaur monster creation nightmare in this maze where they have placed us. Speak the truth, and the truth shall set ye free. I'm blowing the magic whistle. I'm speaking the truth. And in the words of Thomas Jefferson, I have sworn eternal war upon the altar of God against every form of tyranny over the mind of mankind. So help me God. Thank you. Thank you, and God bless you.